Good evening. I'm Bob Berdahl, and I have the pleasure of being Chancellor of this university and also the great pleasure of introducing this program tonight, a lively rematch of the debate between Christopher Hitchens, contributing editor at Vanity Fair and former I.F. Stone Fellow at the Journalism School, and Mark Danner, professor at the Journalism School and staff writer for The New Yorker. The debate tonight is sponsored by the Goldman Forum on Press and Foreign Affairs. This series of lectures, dialogues, scholarships that it provides is meant to foster debate on how critical world issues are covered in the American media and how they can be covered more effectively. We're very grateful for the support of Richard Goldman, one of the university's major benefactors and friends. Our hosts tonight are the Berkeley School of Journalism and the World Affairs Council of Northern California. I will introduce in a moment Orville Schell, who will provide the ground rules for tonight's debate. But let me first introduce our speakers. Christopher Hitchens contributes an essay on books each month to the Atlantic Monthly. He is the author of more than 10 books, and most recently, A Long Short War, The Postponed Liberation of Iraq. He's a contributing editor to Vanity Fair, has written for many American and English periodicals, including The Nation, the London Review of Books, the Los Angeles Times Book Review, Slate, the New York Review of Books, Newsweek, the Times Literary Supplement, and the Washington Post. Hitchens began his career in England in the 1970s as a writer for the New Statesman and the Evening Standard. From 1977 to 79, he worked for London's Daily Express as a foreign correspondent and then returned to the New Statesman as foreign editor, where he worked from 79 to 81. Hitchens has also served as the Washington editor for Harper's and as the U.S. correspondent for The Spectator and the Times Literary Supplement. From 1986 to 92, he was the book review critic at the New York Newsday. He's also been visiting professor at Berkeley, as I've indicated, at the University of Pittsburgh and the New School for Social Research. Mark Danner, a professor at the Graduate School of Journalism and staff writer for The New Yorker, has just returned from a reporting trip to Baghdad. He has written extensively on Haiti, Central America, the Balkans, and the development of American foreign policy in Europe and the Middle East. Danner joined The New Yorker's staff in April of 1990, 5 months after the magazine published his three-part series on Haiti, A Reporter at Large Beyond the Mountains, which won the 1990 National Magazine Award for reporting. On December 6, 1993, for the second time in its history, The New Yorker devoted its entire issue to one article, Danner's piece on an investigation into the notorious massacre in a remote Salvadorian town. He won an Overseas Press Club Award and other awards for this work. Danner's book on the massacre was published in 1994 and was recognized by the New York Times Book Review as one of the notable books of the year. Danner's study of Haiti, Beyond the Mountains, The Legacy of Duvalier, is forthcoming from Metropolitan Books. As you can see, we have much expertise to draw on tonight, and I want to thank you all in advance for your attendance. This promises to be an extraordinarily interesting and lively debate. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce the Dean of the School of Journalism, Orville Schell, who will provide us with the ground rules for the discussion. Orville.
Well, thank you. It's great to see you all here. I think some testament to the fact that this is an important moment in the history of this country, if not the world. Indeed, I think it is something of a tipping point moment as our country finds itself in a war which it hadn't anticipated being as difficult as it is. And as we find the nation, I think, increasingly polarized around what we have done and what we might do. I think if we are to really try to find a reasonable balance sheet for where we are, there really is no better format than a debate. I think we're all rather weary of hearing people yell at each other on television. There's something reassuring about a formal debate where people actually have a chance to say what they mean, disagree with each other, and then challenge each other. I think the proposition that we are here to debate tonight is the following, and I quote President Bush: "I will defend my record at the appropriate time and look forward to it. I'll say that the world is more peaceful and more free under my leadership, and that America is more secure. That will be how I will begin describing our foreign policy." And in effect, I think this is what we are going to be discussing here tonight. I want to read one other quote, sort of by way of setting the backdrop for this debate. It goes like this: "Trying to eliminate Saddam would have incurred incalculable human and political costs. Apprehending him was probably impossible. We would have been forced to occupy Baghdad and, in effect, rule Iraq. There was no viable exit strategy we could see, violating another of our principles. Going in and occupying Iraq, thus unilaterally exceeding the United Nations mandate, would have destroyed the precedent of international response to aggression that we hoped to establish. Had we gone the invasion route, the United States could conceivably still be an occupying power in a bitterly and hostile land." That was uttered by the current president's father, and I think does suggest that even within a single family, it is possible to have widely differing views, whatever the president's father may currently think. Now, let me end here with an admonishment to you all. I ask you all to be civil, to be decorous. You will agree with one of these people or the other, that is certain. But please give both full measure of your attention without interruption.
The Dean, my valued colleague and comrade Allshell, has spared me my introductory paragraph, which I recently combed from the memoirs of George Bush and Brent Scowcroft, by reading it out to you himself. I think I'll just review it again in its entirety, though, to give you the full horror of Chapter 19 of A World Transformed, the work of President Bush Sr. and General Brent Scowcroft, because Orville not unnaturally condensed it slightly. It's a dense paragraph of apparent prescience, first published in 1998. "Trying to eliminate Saddam, extending the ground war into an occupation of Iraq, would have violated our guideline about not changing objectives in midstream, engaging in mission creep, and incurred incalculable human and political costs. Apprehending him was probably impossible. We had been unable to find Noriega in Panama, which we knew intimately. We would have been forced to occupy Baghdad and, in effect, rule Iraq. Going in and occupying Iraq, thus unilaterally exceeding the UN mandate, would have destroyed the precedent of international response to aggression that we hoped to establish. And had we gone the invasion route, the United States could conceivably still be an occupying power in a bitterly hostile land." Now, if you make the relevant allowances of differences of emphasis and of confusion that I think is possibly willful here about the historical record, because after all, it was on the Bush-Scowcroft watch that Manuel Noriega was successfully apprehended. So pessimistic are they, in fact, in this account, that they fail to register one of their own successes. One could not, I think, have a better paraphrase of what is an emerging left-right conventional wisdom, extending all the way from Pat Buchanan to General Clark. And like its more recent emulators, it has another thing in common. It represents the anti-Saddam war, or the campaign for regime change in Iraq, or the American invasion of Iraq, or the Anglo-American invasion of Iraq, or whatever you choose to call it. It represents that outcome as something not other than elective.